Hey, Who fans, welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And we're at episode 192.
Oh, yes.
Have you ever thought what it's like to be wanderers in the fourth dimension?
Nobody in the universe can do what we're doing.
I've reversed the polarity of the neutron flow, so the TARDIS should be free of the force field now.
There's no point in being grown up if you can't be childish sometimes.
The trouble with time travel is, one never seems to find the time.
Change, my dear, and it seems not a moment too soon.
Unlimited rice pudding, etc., etc.
I am the Doctor!
Great men are forged in fire. It is the privilege of lesser men to light the flame.
I'm the Doctor. This is Rose Tyler. She's my +1. Is that all right?
That would be me.
Hello. Surprise!
Boo!
Etc.
I'm the Doctor. Do everything I tell you. Don't ask stupid questions. And don't wander off.
How can you kidneys? I don't like the colour.
Howdy do, Who fans. Welcome to episode 192. Hope you're all well. And that you've managed to do something Doctor Who related. It's been a bit quiet out there again. Mr. Chibnall doing his lockdown thing very well.
I know, yeah, he is doing well, actually. Very well.
Indeed.
Yes.
Surprisingly well, some would say.
Locked down. I am impressed. I'm not going to lie.
Yes.
I am impressed. We say that, and you know, as soon as we start recording, there'll be pictures plastered all
Tons
over
of stuff,
Twitter.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's been all this rumour about a trailer, isn't there, as well, all week. Oh, we're going to get a trailer. We're going to get a trailer. It's the football's on. I kept thinking, can't see it. Still feels a little bit early, but
it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Seems a wee bit early.
I say so far we haven't got one anyway.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't really do rumours, though, do we?
No, but we do keep bringing them up. Are you a footy fan, by the way?
No, not. I used to be. When in my younger years, I used to be into it quite a lot, but I went off of it a few years ago.
Yeah, I've never been into football, and so if ever we do get because they do seem to keep linking it up with Doctor Who recently, don't they? Like the Jodie trailer was in the middle of a football game, wasn't it, and stuff. And
that was tennis. That was the Wimbledon, wasn't it?
Oh, was it tennis?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, I knew it was sport. Maybe I should. Yeah, I'm just not into sport generally. You know, as you can tell if you look at this, shape of me. But yeah, I always find it really laborious when we know we've got to sit through like football or tennis to get to a trailer. I'm like, because they normally, from what I've seen, they normally talk about half an hour after the actual game, don't they? And I'm just sat there thinking, oh, shut up and get the trailer on, man of the match, and all that sort of stuff. But
yeah, it wasn't so bad with the football. Sorry, if it was football, because with football, you know that the kickoff is going to be a certain time. Yeah. And say, for example, if they said, right, we're going to show you the trailer during half time or something, you know that exactly 45 minutes after kickoff, you're going to get it. But with the tennis, the Wimbledon, it was kind of up in the air because there's no real set time for a game of tennis. It just goes on for as long as somebody wins, I suppose.
That's right. So I remember being in the car coming home thinking, it's all right. I've got ages to get back because the tennis is on. And I think it must have finished early or dead on time or something, didn't it? Because I remember watching the Jodie reveal in the car. And I was like, oh, no, I can't get it. Because like you said, we couldn't gauge what time it was going to be on.
Yeah, just remember beforehand, it was like, it's going to be between this time and this time. There was no definitive. So, yes, it would be better if it was during the footy, I must admit. But I can't see us having a trailer just yet. Maybe next month, sometime in July.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, we've got something in the news coming up, which I think will link into this. So I'll talk about it when we get to that in the news section. Yeah.
You been up to anything, buddy?
Well, I've been, I'm quite a happy chap, actually. Quite a happy chap. On Saturday, just gone, the Big Finish vinyl of Infamy of the Zaros, the 10th Doctor story, was released, and it was a limited vinyl to only 750 copies. And I kind of felt like, I think I said to you, our chances of getting it, because people just go in and buy loads of copies and sell them on eBay, don't they? So I phoned up HMV, my local one, because they're really good in there, actually. And I said to him, I don't suppose you're getting this new Doctor Who vinyl in tomorrow. He's like, oh, yeah, we've got a couple of copies. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, are you allowed to reserve them He's like, I don't know, but I'll put you one by. And I was like, all right, because it's a special like 1 day vinyl thing. So sometimes they're not allowed. It's like first come.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, they put one aside for me, and I was really chuffed. I went in, and they had there was one on the shelf, and I met one of my friends there, one of my subscribers, and he was like, "Oh, I've just picked up my vinyl," and I was like, "Oh, you've got it as well," and it was really cool actually. It's just, and then I opened up Twitter, and it was just full of like people who'd managed to go out and get it, and it was just really nice to see, because I was saying sort of the night before, whatever, people are just going to bung it on eBay, and sure enough, there are loads on eBay now, and they're all 50 to 80 quid, which is it just annoys me. But I have to say that the HMV did have a big sticker on it saying limited to 1 per customer. So that's cool. I mean, I know it's very easy to get around that. You just send your mate in and get it or whatever. but it was really nice to see so many fans actually getting hold of a copy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was well chuffed. It was $17.99, and it's a yellow. The vinyl itself's a yellow, which is nice. Mm-hmm. It's a yellow vinyl. So I was really chuffed with that. Got back, put it on the shelf with the other ones. And then what else did I get? I got a Croton figure through in the post this week as well. He's really good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had to get him off eBay because he's just been released by Egomos, but as usual, they sold out straight away and stuff. So I got one off eBay. Not too bad a price, actually. He's really good. So I don't know if you saw my picture of him. He looks great on the shelf. He's one of the bigger figures. They do like specials every now and again, and they're slightly bigger.
Oh, yes.
He's one of those, so
that's
cool. Good.
I like him.
He is. I'm very chuffed with him. So I've got my vinyl, got my Croton. Not a bad week actually. And apart from that, mate, I've just been watching Twitch, which I've got a bit not obsessed with. I'm not obsessed with it, but I've really got into it. Like I'm finding, I come in the evening and I bung it straight on the laptop and just leave it on, rolling away. And they're just finishing up the Pertwee era at the minute as we record. I think we'll be going into Tom. Will it be tonight? Is it tomorrow? Yeah. Or if you're listening to this on the day it goes out, it'll be last night. Very timey-wimey. So I've been watching a bit of Twitch, and as I said, I've really got into that. That's been good fun. I watched a bit of Inferno the other night, with the old Brigadier in his eye patch and all that stuff. And the one I wanted to see, but the one I missed, was Planet of the Spiders. Because I haven't watched, Pertwee's last one. I haven't watched that for ages. In fact, that might be tonight.
Oh, hold on, no. Planet of Spiders is tonight. Sorry, yeah.
I was thinking I've missed it. Yeah. So by the time the podcast goes out, it will have happened. But yeah, I'll have to try and catch that tonight, because I just feel like watching it. I've got the DVD, but there's something cool about watching it on Twitch and seeing all the comments and chatting with fans whilst watching it. So I think that'll be a good one to watch on Twitch tonight. Yeah.
I reckon so.
Yeah. They got the funny voices, the spiders. Yeah.
Somebody voiced one of the spiders that was in it with something else.
Something else?
It doesn't make any sense, does it?
It doesn't, but I think I know what you mean.
Somebody the person that voiced the spiders.
Yes.
Voiced something else in Who as well, or was in Starred in Doctor Who.
Is it Alpha Centauri? No.
You might be.
Or is it just that they sound a little bit similar?
Yes. So I don't. The reason why I remember it is because I can never pronounce her first name.
Oh, right.
Because it's spelled Ysanne. I think it's pronounced Yasan or just San. So Yasan or San Churchman. She did the voice for Alpha and the Spider.
And the Spider, and of course returned to the new series, didn't she? Last year, was it? Yeah, to do Alpha again. That surprise little cameo. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which is very cool. So that's been me, mate. I haven't really been up to much else. What about yourself? What have you been doing?
Not a lot, mate. I'll be honest with you. Just a bit of a quiet one in comparison to the week before.
Yes.
So, like you, really, just catching up on watching a load of Who on Twitch, really. So some Pertwee ones that I caught up with over the last few days: the Sea Devils, the Three Doctors.
I love the Sea Devils.
Planet of the Daleks and the Green Death.
Oh yeah, giant maggots.
The maggots. Yeah. So tonight will be what's tonight? Something, and then Planet of the Spiders.
Yeah.
I can't remember what's before though. But I'll be staying up late to watch that because I really like Planet of the Spiders. I'm not going to say too much because we haven't
No, well, you did it. Wasn't that your very first review?
No.
Or am I? No? You have done it, haven't you?
No. Oh, I have, yeah. Episode 5.
I thought you had, yeah.
Episode 5 back in the day was just me on me Todd.
Yeah. I was going to, God, I'd be worried there. I was thinking, I'm sure I remembered you reviewing that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll have to do that together as a proper review, because my review would have been very naive and quiet and bumbly back in the day. So you and I will have to do it together. And also, we're going to have to do Genesis together.
Yes.
Because we've had, I would say, half a dozen people get in touch over last week and said, to say, have you guys done a review of Genesis yet? Been looking for it, can't find it. And to sort of let people down gently.
Yeah.
So,
well,
no, we haven't.
Which era are we going to do? The Phil Collins era or the Peter Gabriel? No, we should actually, because obviously it leads into what we're going to see this weekend, which I am so excited about it. You know, me and you are off to the BFI, aren't we, to see Genesis of the Daleks on the big screen. So that's going to be awesome. Yeah, is it on the schedule? Let me get our schedule up.
It's not, mate.
It's not on there, is it?
Yet.
No.
We should probably do it. The problem is we've done a Fourth Doctor story recently. I was
just going to say, yeah.
And we like to spread them out a little bit. So we did The Mask of Mandragora a couple of weeks back. 2 weeks ago. So later on in the year. Actually, no, because the new series will be on for the last
Maybe
bit of the
we'll
year.
do it straight after the new series or something. So it's like, that would be cool.
We'll get round to it, don't worry.
We will.
And I'll put, hold on, let's do this. Let's put a little star next to it and say to be done ASAP.
ASAP. Yeah.
Are you
going to be rocking your Fourth Doctor scarf on Saturday? I'm going to take mine.
No.
Because
it'll be too bloody hot.
It's going to be. It's hot. It's still lovely, and it's lovely weather in the minute. I might take my mini one. You know, I've got like I've got the sort of half-sized official Tom Baker scarf. I might just wear that because
cool.
That's not bad, is it? And then last time I wore it, someone was like, "Oh, Harry Potter." I was like, "No, it's not a Harry Potter scarf, you fools."
Why?
Well, no, I can see. I can see.
No, Adam, you can't see.
No, I can't see it.
It's not even. There's one colour in one of the blocks that shares the same as the Griff. Come on, people.
Yeah, I did just give them a look when they said it. So I might wear that. You've got the absolute opposite of the short scarf there. You've got like the extra long screen accurate one, haven't you? Which is
way
just.
Too. It's really. Thick
I
as
wouldn't
well.
even.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it is really thick. Yeah.
Let's have a look. So London.
You can just
Saturday.
imagine you wearing that in the BFI, absolutely sweltering.
Because it gets warm in there anyway.
Yeah.
They haven't got the best aircon in there.
No.
Saturday, 23 degrees in London.
All right.
So forget it. I'm probably likely to wear shorts as well.
Oh, good Lord.
It's going to be so. Yeah, let's get the old pins out. How about that?
Yeah. Yes.
But definitely not a scarf for me, mate. It's going to be way too warm.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Walking out the BFI like Matthew Waterhouse after 5 glasses of wine.
And we won't be going out and drinking 10% pints of lager again.
Oh, no.
Either.
No.
That nearly finished me off.
That wiped us out.
At the Doctor, at the Doctor Who quiz.
Oh, dear. So we might see some of you there on Saturday, tomorrow, if you're listening to this today on release day.
Yeah.
I know that Phil, who joined me on the podcast a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to be there.
Going to be there.
Firm handshakes for everybody.
Yeah.
And I think a couple of other people have mentioned it as well on Twitter. So we'll hopefully bump into you and say hello.
Indeedy.
Yes. So that's about as much as I've been up to, mate.
Cool. Well, we'll have plenty to talk about next week, won't we? Because Philip Hinchcliffe's going to the BFI thing, so he's bound to be interested and give us something to talk about next week.
Yes.
Yes.
Rightio. Now that we've done that, should we do some news?
Okay.
First up, just one bit of news, like we said. It's fairly light out there at the minute. But we are going to see the new cast and production peeps from the new series of Doctor Who at a panel at San Diego Comic-Con.
Oh, nice.
Hold on to your butts. The new cast. So this is going to be the first panel appearance, like the first proper sort of panel where they're going to get interviewed and fired loads of questions and all that jazz. So it's going to be Jodie. She's going to be there. And the two co-stars. So Bradley Walsh is not going to be there. No. But the other two co-stars that we haven't really seen much of as of yet. So Tosin Cole and Mandip Gill, they're going to be there, as well as Jibbers.
Yay!
And executive producer Matt Strevens, or Strevens, however you say it. And it's going to be hosted by, or moderated by, Chris Hardwick. Now, I only know his name very briefly from a similar thing he did, a talk show called The Talking Dead. So years ago, when I started watching The Walking Dead, he was doing something else around there. But I've not known him to be with anything related to Doctor Who before. We just know that he's a big, very big super fan of Doctor Who. So, and a bit of a comedian apparently. So I mean, he is quite a funny guy, to be fair. He is quite funny.
I've never heard of him, but yeah, sorry. Is he American?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know who he is, but okay.
He's quite funny. Yeah. So I think that'll be a good panel. It'll be really good to see them all there, like the first proper media event, if you like, of everybody involved in the new series. It's a shame that Bradley Walsh is not going to be there.
Yeah, he's probably too busy filming The Chase.
You reckon? Does he still do that?
I don't know. It's still on the TV, but yeah, he probably recorded them ages ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's going to be cool. And I don't know what day it's on, though, because Comic-Con runs from Thursday to Sunday at the end of July, the 19th of July to the 22nd. And it doesn't say what day and what time as yet. So we'll keep you updated. And they usually stream these things now. I'm imagining that we'll get a stream on Twitch for Comic-Con, plus YouTube and other stuff like that. So it should be fairly accessible.
It should. That kind of leads me on to what we were saying about the trailer earlier, because I completely, when all these rumours about a trailer coming out quite soon, I was like, nah, it's too soon. But actually, they will probably get a trailer, and if they get it, then there is a good chance that we'll get a trailer. So, don't know. Them appearing at this does increase the chances of us getting a trailer, which is quite exciting, even if it's just a teaser or something. So yeah, it's quite a big deal as well, isn't it? This. I mean, I know a few people. As soon as it was announced, was like, why did America get the premiere? Oh, it's always America. And I was thinking, I hear you, but the other side of it is this is a real big deal, and we want the show to do well out there, because Doctor Who's got a good following in the US. So, it's I think it's right. I think it's a really cool thing that they're going to be there. Yeah.
I do, and if it's going to be so, because there's a lot at stake with this new era of Doctor Who. Like you said, it has to do well, not just in the UK. There's no bigger stage than the San Diego Comic-Con. So if they are going to say, right, we're going to put a panel together, why not do the biggest one in the world? And they're always really popular as well. So if you go on YouTube and look for previous Doctor Who panels, there's a really, really good one with David Tennant, John Barrowman and Russell T Davies.
Oh, I remember. That's on one of the DVDs, I think. Yeah,
there's a really good panel with those three.
Yeah.
It was really funny. And the hall was just packed out, like super packed. So if you can get as many fans in there, and I know they could probably do something similar at the Showmasters Film and Comic-Con in London, but the venue's not big enough. And they, with all respect to Showmasters, sometimes the organisation could do with a little bit of a tweak now and then that you and I have discovered many times there. So I think this is the perfect place, actually. I know people are bummed out it's not in the UK, but I think this is perfect.
I think it's great for exposure. I really do. Yeah.
So there we go. The first proper new series Doctor Who panel at Comic-Con. We'll let you know what exact date and day it's going to be and stuff. So stay tuned for that. That's the only bit of news we've got. Shall we bring in old Grumpy Pants? See what he's got?
Yeah.
Merch corner. Merch corner. Merch corner.
I don't know whether to be impressed or disgusted.
It's a bit rubbish, but it's pretty. It's very pretty.
Another fan fiction, fan story-based book has just been thrown at me.
All right.
It's the Temporal Logbook 2, Further Journeys. And these are quite popular these days. This is not the first time this year that we've spoken about a fan-based book that have been put together. And this one is also for charity, which is pretty cool. So the Temporal Logbook 2 is from Canterbury Cathedral. From Canterbury Cathedral to a space station orbiting a Dyson sphere, the Doctor has seen countless worlds throughout his many lives. The Temporal Logbook tells some of those stories, 15 gripping tales showing the universe through the eyes of 13 incarnations, including the War Doctor.
Yeah. And
these stories have been put together, it says, by some of the most exciting voices in Doctor Who fandom. And there's basically a whole list of people that have put together stories for this book. So there's 15 in all, and it's out now. You can, we'll put a link to the show notes. It is about, excluding VAT, it's probably around £12.
Yeah.
£12-ish. And all proceeds go to charity. So they'll be donated to the Mood Disorders Association of British Columbia, which is a non-profit organisation that provides treatment support and education and hope of recovery for people living with mood disorder. So all proceeds will go to that. So that might be worth checking out if fan fiction and fan stories are your thing.
Yeah, that's cool, actually. I like the cover. Yeah, It does look good. Anything with the 13th Doctor is always good. Right, our friends at Robert Harrop. Oh, listeners know how much I love their stuff. They've just sent out some new pictures of the next two forthcoming releases. So the next one coming out is the second Doctor, Patrick Troughton, followed by K9, who in the picture hasn't got his ears yet. But it's like a very early sort of version of the sculpt they're going to use. So let's take a look at the second Doctor for a second, because me and you have said, as much as we love the Harrop figurines, the ones that we're never quite sure of are their Doctor figures, because the face sculpts don't tend to be great. This one, I think the paint apps and everything look really cool on him. Facially, he's an improvement, I think, on the third and fourth and the 10th Doctor. But yeah, I don't know. It's difficult, isn't it? It's not like the K9 one, which I'm looking at, and just he's an instant buy for me. K9, absolutely can't wait for that one to come out. He does, absolutely. So excited to get that figurine. Mm-hmm. The one before this was the Mandrill, which I did get, and that is a stunning figurine as well. But this second Doctor, man, I don't know. He looks decent to me. I'll be honest with you. He's not, as I said, he's an improvement on the other Doctors, but. Yeah, I don't know. It's not 100%.
I read you. Yeah. And we've said this many times about the Robert Harrop stuff. From the neck down, they absolutely nail it. The costume, the clothing, and the detail they put into like fabric looking stuff and the little details, they really go for it. But it's just the face, the head sculpt part of it is not quite... I don't know. I mean, this one for me, I know you said it's an improvement, but it still looks nothing like Troughton to me. It really doesn't look anything like Troughton at all. The only thing that looks like him is the hair. Like the actual face part of it is nowhere near. Nowhere near enough for me to part with any cash, put it that way.
I was going to say, I'm not sure what the price of him is going to be yet, because he's going to be limited to 250 units. Let's have a look. Their other Doctor figures were around 50 to £60. So I'm guessing it'll be there. If you just click on the Robert Harrop site, mate, just have a look at the other two. I mean, the Pertwee one, there's a slight resemblance, but I have to say, I think the Tennant one's the one that they just didn't nail. And as I said, I'm not bashing these guys because I love their stuff. I mean, the monster figures are awesome. The Zygon one I've had my eye on for ages. I don't know. I'd like to see this in hand, I'll probably nip to the Who shop because they'll get it, won't they? So I can look at it in their cabinet because I want to see the actual thing.
Yeah.
But K9, I'm so excited about. Hopefully, he's not too expensive because he's going to be brilliant. And this picture they've released is only a sort of early sculpt as well, isn't it? So they're only going to improve on that. But they've got him looking good, I think.
Yeah, it's one of those early clay sculpts where it's just all grey, isn't it? There's no.
Yeah.
But yeah, he looks bang on, and that's the thing about Robert Harrop. If it's the TARDIS or if it's a monster,
TARDIS is gorgeous. Yeah.
A robot or a monster with a mask on or something like that. They always, it's pretty much spot on. In terms of screen accuracy and likeness and stuff. I know they've got their own sort of little style, that they apply to things, but it's just faces on the Doctors that, I can't get into those. But
I know what you're saying. I was going to say, well, he's just for anyone that wants to see it, go and have a look at the website. He's coming out on the 29th of June. You'll be able to pre-order him, limited to 250 units. Not sure of the price yet, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm still intrigued to see it in hand, but I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Yes. So Robert Harrop, and then lastly,
this has come out of nowhere, isn't it?
Yeah. So the and it's not unlike Amazon to do this either. There's something else that they put on here, which I'll come on to in a second. But Doctor Who Series 11 has popped up on Amazon for pre-order in 3 different formats, no less. Well, 2 different formats and 1 sort of special edition. But you can pre-order the DVD, the standard Blu-ray, and the Blu-ray Steelbook. And the prices have jumped all over the place already today. Because when I looked at this morning, these prices were different.
Yeah.
When I looked at it later on this morning, they were different. And as you and I have started recording, they're different again. So Amazon are definitely chopping and changing. I don't know why, because it's pretty far away. And even if you go into them, there's no release date, obviously.
I was going to say there's no date for it. It probably won't be till next year, will it? Because if the series it's the complete set, so the series is not going to be finished until Christmas.
Well, at least.
Presumably. Yeah, I don't know. This is mad, but yeah.
And it's not the final cover art either. All they've done is for the standard Blu-ray and the DVD, they've used the promotional shot of Jodie with the TARDIS in the background. And then for the Blu-ray Steelbook, it's the design they've used on a few things like mugs and T-shirts, where it's the silhouette of Jodie with the TARDIS right in a corner in the background and the much deeper sunset, starry sky sort of thing. Which actually looks okay. I don't mind that as the Steelbook. I imagine it won't be the final image, but yeah, it's interesting that they've dumped these on here this early.
It is, yeah. They just suddenly popped up. I gotta say, I'm excited by the Steelbook. Absolutely, I love the Doctor Who Steelbook, so I'm looking forward to seeing the final artwork on that whenever we get it. And it's an Amazon exclusive as well, and that's a bit of a double-edged sword actually, because in some ways that's good because you think, right, well, if I'm going to get it, I've got to order it from Amazon. You know where you are. There can only be one price sort of thing. But when it's not exclusive to them, it does mean that they have to sort of price match with Zavi and all that. So yeah, but this one is an Amazon exclusive. So if you want the Steelbook, you're going to have to get it from them. And it does mean they can charge what they want for it, really, I suppose.
Yeah. Talking of prices, they have jumped around a bit. So when I looked at this morning, the Steelbook was $79.99.
Oh, God.
And the DVD was $65, and the standard Blu-ray was $49.99. And then, cut a long story short, it's changed a couple of times. But as I'm looking at it right now, the Blu-ray Steelbook has gone down to $48.99 from 80 quid. The DVD's gone to $49.99, and the Blu-ray's gone up again, and it's now $55, the standard Blu-ray. So I've no idea what the final price is going to be. No idea at all. I gotta say that actually the covers they've got, like you said, they're not the finished ones, but they actually look quite good. It's funny though, because that picture of Jodie, that promotional shot, I am bored of seeing it now. We could do with like at least one more. It reminds me of when Capaldi took over and they just constantly use that picture of him with the white background with him with his hand out, and we kept thinking, well, we've seen the behind the scenes of that photo shoot. We've seen him like pulling loads of different poses,
where's the rest of the photos? Like they just literally just kept using that same one shot, didn't they, for everything for ages? I get the feeling they're going to do the same with Jodie, but yeah, it looks all right though.
Doesn't look too bad.
Yeah, not too shabby.
Are you going to pre-order the Steelbook?
Yeah, I guess so.
The price will change, won't it? Anyway.
Yeah.
Between now and then, I would say it won't be 50 quid.
I guess there's no harm in pre-ordering it because I'm not going to have to sort of wait and see who's selling it cheapest because you can only get it from Amazon. So yeah, I guess I am going to pre-order it because I do want it. I don't want to pay 50 quid for it, but yeah, I do want it. So yeah, I guess I will. Even though I've no idea when it'll be out, but yeah. Steelbook, definitely want to get that. Yeah,
it'll probably be the standard Blu-ray will probably be $39.99, and then the Steelbook will be $44.99 on release.
Yeah,
roughly.
I guess. Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah. What about you? You'll be getting Steelbook, surely.
Yeah, might as well. Ordered every other bloody Steelbook. Might as well get this.
I was going to say you got to get it. Yeah, got to get to go with the others. Did you get the Series 3 Steelbook in the end, or are you still
not yet?
The price and waiting for that to.
It's gone up,
Has it?
Yeah.
Oh. How much is it now?
Well, when you and I met up last Saturday or Sunday, whenever it was $29.99.
29,
and now it's gone up to 35 quid.
Oh, no chance, no way.
So Amazon, come on, throw us a bone.
No, I wouldn't pay more than 20 quid for it. Well, I paid $24.99, didn't I? So I did pay more. Yeah, blimey, it's $41.99. Yeah. Gosh, no, sorry, they're having a laugh.
Someone's having a giggle with the Amazon pricing algorithm over there.
Look at the Series 9 Steelbook, £399.
Crikey Moses.
That was Oh no! And it's just come up next to it is the Season 12 Tom Baker box set, which is now saying it's not available at all. I don't know what is going on with that.
Yeah, I think they've sold them out. They're sold out, mate.
Oh dear.
Yeah, popular set.
Very.
Yeah. Anyways, we're done for news and merch.
Yeah.
Review time.
Yeah.
Hit me.
Bit of Tenant, bit of 10th Doctor this week with a very scary first part. So it's The Impossible Planet.
Don't turn around.
Entering night shift.
This writing is old. Impossibly old.
Gone beyond the reach of the TARDIS's knowledge, not a good move.
We must feed.
People, look at that, real people.
That's us. Hooray!
We must feed.
Whatever it is down there is not a natural phenomenon.
We could revolutionise modern science.
We could use it to fuel the Empire.
Or start a war.
The beast and his armies shall rise from the pit to make war against God.
The pit is open, and I am free.
That voice
reminds me of the old Vincent Price style hammer.
Oh, yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Sort of Dracula cackle at the end.
Yeah. Gabriel Wolf, isn't it? Yeah.
Indeed. Sutekh. So The Impossible Planet, the start of a two-parter that first came to our screens in 2006.
Gosh.
On the 3rd of June. And it was written by Matt Jones. It was directed by James Strong and stars David Tennant and Billy Piper as the Doctor and Rose. And the Doctor and Rose land in what looks like a very small containing area on a space station. And little do they know that they are orbiting a black hole. And the reason why this particular planet hasn't been sucked into the black hole as yet is because the big devil Satan beast thing is he stopping himself from being drawn into the black hole? Is that why they haven't been?
That's what I assume.
Yeah. So there's a scientific team that are doing a load of tests and everything and drilling down into the planet when the Doctor and Rose arrive, and then it soon transpires that the spirit, if you like, of that big god beast thing that's down in the core of the planet has inhabited somebody on the space station, as well as the Ood. Sometimes they go a bit nuts as well. Our first introduction to the Ood. And And then we end with a cliffhanger with the Doctor going down into the core of the planet and having to wait until, at the time, next week to find out what's going on. So, The Impossible Planet. What do you reckon, buddy?
Yes, very good, actually. I haven't watched this story for a very, very long time. In fact, I can't quite believe it was 2006. That's incredible. Yeah, I really like this one, mate. I thought it was a very good first part, actually. I thought the sort of tension of the episode built really well. Just keeps building and building and building. I was wondering if it might have dated, because I remember liking this when it first went out. I remember thinking, what a great, I like this story. I'm looking forward to next week. So because I haven't watched it for a while, I was expecting it to not quite live up to my memory or perhaps look a bit dated. And overall, I don't think it's too bad, actually. I think some of the sets may be a bit overlit and stuff, but overall, it looks pretty decent, I thought. There's a couple of CGI shots of the base which are a bit, could be better, but story wise it's great. What I was pleased about was that it was just as creepy as I remembered, because that was the bit I thought, rewatching it, I thought maybe when I watch it again it won't be as scary as I remember it being back in the day. It is actually. There's a couple of scenes in it that I think they've really pushed it to the knuckle, but in a good way. They didn't go too far with it, but when Toby's possessed, and particularly the bit where he breaks the window and poor old Scooter, or whatever her name is. What's her name? Not Scooter, but Scooty. Yeah, when she gets, when he blown out of the window and killed and stuff, it's pretty close to knuckle for children's television. I mean, it is like quite scary. We've got all the stuff writing over his face and hands and the red eyes and the voice, and yeah, it's pretty chilling stuff. But it reminds me of like classic Who, how they got the sort of level of that scariness just right. Because even I'm sat there just thinking, oh no, the bit where Toby won't turn around and he's like, Toby, don't look at me. Even I was like, oh no, I know what happened. So I was still like on the edge of my seat, sort of thing. So I'm glad that it wasn't diluted, now. I'm glad I didn't watch it and think, oh, this was scary back in 2006. Now it's laughable, like sometimes, happens. I think it still stood up pretty well, was the first part. Yeah. So overall, mate, pretty positive from me on this one. Cool. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, very positive on this one. I think it's got a great mix of, because everybody likes the odd Who episode that's quite scary, and I think this one's got a very good mix of kind of suspense. There's a lot building up to the reveal in the second part. But in this part, it's very suspenseful, because all we know at the minute is there's a sort of evil, sinister voice that Toby can obviously hear. And it manifests itself through the ood and through the communicators and stuff. So it's very sinister, because you can't put a face in this part to what the beast or the monster is this week in Doctor Who. And it is quite scary in a couple of places, really quite chilling. Yeah. So it's got that great mix of little bits of humour thrown in between the Doctor and Rose, and these scary moments as well. And it creates a real fast-moving episode as well. So I found myself, because I watched this a week or so ago when they bunged everything onto iPlayer.
Oh, yeah.
As I was going through, this was one of the ones that I watched, and I watched it again last night. And both times I watched it recently, it seemed to fly by. Because last night it was about, I don't know, sort of 9 o'clock, and I thought, right, the missus has gone to bed. I've got the TV to myself, lovely. Can watch Doctor Who in silence, but, and then I'll do something afterwards. And then literally before I knew it, bosh, it was done. And it happened a couple of weeks ago as well. I started watching it, and then, so because you've got loads of cool scenes and you've got this sinister build-up, it does provide a real sort of, it's not a roller coaster of an episode. It's not that, up and down, but it does provide a really good forward, and the editing helps as well. There aren't many, with the exception of a couple of scenes, it does sort of motor along quite nicely. And overall, I think it's a really good, scary story. Matt Jones hasn't written too much in the way of Doctor Who stuff. The only other thing he did was obviously the follow-up, the Satan Pit. And that was it. The only other thing he's done really is a Torchwood episode.
Yeah, which one did he do? Because I must admit, when I couldn't remember who wrote this, so I made a note of it when it came up on screen. I was like, Matt Jones. No, the name didn't mean anything. You know, sometimes when a name comes up written by, you're like, oh yeah, Toby Whitehouse, whatever. But yeah, Matt Jones. I was like, who's that? I don't know that name, because like you said, he only did this one and the follow up second part and the Torchwood. I think Doctor Who related anyway. So
it was a series 3 or a series 2 Torchwood. Dead Man Walking from series 2.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Otherwise, he's only done like the odd. He's done a bit of Corrie, and I think he did a couple of episodes for that episode, Lucky Man by Stan Lee.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's a pretty good writer. He just hasn't done an awful lot that he's credited for anyway. But overall, I thought it was a pretty decent script, and it was it was quite a complicated script as well, I found, because although the story isn't complicated in itself, as in there isn't any timey-wimey stuff going on, and it's not, it doesn't integrate with any larger story arcs or anything like that. There is a lot going on in terms of the Doctor and Rose being stranded on the space station because where the TARDIS landed, part of that station collapses, doesn't it, down into the planet.
Yeah.
So they're stranded on there. But then you've also got the relationships between the science team members and their sort of weirdness that 2 other humans have turned up. Well, they think the Doctor's human, have turned up out of nowhere. But then you've got the introduction of the Ood as well. And they can't talk directly to people. They can only talk via their communicators. So that provides another stumbling block. You can't really write that mega easily. It has to be done in a certain way. And then you've got the possession side of things with Toby getting possessed by the Beast and so on. So it's not a complicated storyline, but I think the script and how the characters are moved along and how they interact with the Ood and stuff, it's quite challenging, you know, for somebody that hasn't wrote any Doctor Who before. I would have definitely, you know, if I was a writer and I'd not, you know, been into much sci-fi writing, especially Doctor Who, and Russell T Davies said, I want you to write for Who, here's a really cool storyline we've got, this really good idea, I would have been like, oh, crikey. This is a big one. It's a two-parter as well. You're not just writing a small, isolated story. You're writing essentially, I mean, if you think about two parts of Doctor Who together, what was that, 90 minutes, roughly?
Yeah.
You know, you're almost writing a feature film.
Exactly.
You know, so it's a big, it's a fairly big task for somebody that hasn't been involved in Who before.
I was thinking that while watching it about it, it sort of has a sort of, you can imagine this sort of being made into a feature film. Actually, it's got a lot of great elements, like like this group on the base and all that sort of stuff. So you've automatically got this whole set of characters there to work with. I agree with you about the pacing. I thought it was very well paced, this first part. It did nip along, but it was nice actually, because there were moments in the story where, because it's a two-parter, it did have time to breathe. There were some quieter scenes, and then we were straight back into action. I thought the bit with the TARDIS being lost, when when they lose that part of the base, and the way the Doctor twigs, because it's actually, he twigs about a few minutes after, doesn't he? Because they mention which part of the base has collapsed, and then he sort of, there's another little scene, and then he suddenly says, hang on a minute, what part did you say? And he suddenly realizes that's where the TARDIS was parked, and it's, it's a goner. And I thought that's a great, because you do get involved in the story at that point. You're like, oh wow, they are stranded on this blimmin' planet being sucked into a black hole. And so there's a lot going on in it, definitely enough to keep you interested. And I thought the pacing was very good in terms of that.
And it's interesting you say that, because I had that noted down as well. Up to that point in the story, the Doctor and Rose treat everything fairly light-hearted, don't they?
Bit blasé, aren't they?
Yeah, because when they land, they obviously have a little laugh and a joke, and then they run into the Ood, which is potentially a scary moment to kick off the show with, because you think
good opener actually.
Because the Ood's communicators get stuck, don't they? It's like, we must feed, and you think, crikey, they're going to get attacked within moments, and then they realise it's just a problem, and they meet the team and everything's cool. And even when the Doctor's trying to figure out like why this planet is stuck in the orbit around the black hole and why it hasn't been sucked into the the pull of the black hole, he's still kind of not really that serious. He's interested because he's got that intrigue and he has that. It's a really cool when he's like, you humans, he's like, why did you investigate? Why did you come here and look at it? Just because it was there. And he gives him a hug. And
I like that scene.
So it's all really light-hearted, even though as a viewer, like, something bad's coming. Otherwise we wouldn't be here in the first place. You know that something, because we have the little scene with Toby feeling a bit weird, don't we, in his quarters and stuff. Something weird's coming. But the Doctor and Rose, they're never really quite into it. They're just quite light-hearted. They know that they can just, nip back to the TARDIS and bugger off, if anything happens. And it's that point when the Doctor clicks, when he realises that the TARDIS is lost. Or, when it's been, literally lost because the station's fallen apart. His attitude is immediately different. The lightheartedness has gone away. It's all serious, like, oh crap.
He becomes one of them.
He does.
Basically. He's stranded just like they are. Yeah. And he's like, oh, yeah, I know. He even talks about like buying a house and settling down and what would he do? Well, he's like, do I have to change my life now? It's like, so yeah, it's good. It's an interesting change of dynamic. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. And there's an interest that, it's another. So earlier on when I said that the pacing was, it sort of thunders along with the exception of a couple of scenes. That's one of the scenes where it slows down a bit, when the Doctor and Rose are sat there having a chat about, because they've realised that the TARDIS is gone. But they're not freaking out about it. They just seem a bit sort of disheartened. Rose has just sort of accepted it, really. She's like, well, because she tries to call her mum, there's no signal. And she's like, I don't even know what I'd say to her.
Yeah.
And then the Doctor's sort of leaning on his chin and he's like, well, I don't know what we're going to do now. And she's like, well, we'll get a house, I suppose, a mortgage. And
yeah.
So that's a real slow scene, obviously, intermingled with this fast-paced, more sort of suspenseful action stuff. And it's another reason why I really like the script, because it's difficult to... I imagine as a writer, it's very difficult to get this forward motion happening within a story where, the story's picking up pace, things are happening, but then to just come to a dead end and have nothing else going on but just two actors sat there having a conversation, which is at odds with the rest of the story, because the rest of the story is about survival and figuring out what's going on and people are dying and all that stuff. And then to flip it on its head where you just stop that on its, it's like you're hitting a brick wall almost in terms of the pacing. You hit a brick wall and you have this conversation that's very funny and light-hearted and not like the rest of the tone of the story.
Yeah.
And then when it's done, you're back up again. You've picked up the momentum seems to come back and then you're into the story. So I imagine as a writer, that's really hard to do because you don't want to bring it down to such a level that you've lost engagement. People think, well, what's happened here? A second ago we were on this cool ride of a story and now it's flat. So, but it seems to work. I don't know.
I was going to say, sometimes you do get that, don't you, in a two-parter? You'll sort of be rocking along and then then you'll get a scene. And then, like you said, sometimes two-parters, they do feel like they are sometimes struggling to fill the time. You sort of think, well, clearly, that sort of scene's shoved in there to fill 5 minutes, but it didn't really take it anywhere. But yeah, this one, it's just enough. You get a little bit of scene and then we're straight back into she gets the phone call with the weird message on, doesn't she, and stuff like that. So we're straight back into it. I thought pacing wise is very, very good. Very good, this one.
Yeah.
And I love the beginning bit. Sorry, mate. I love the beginning bit you mentioned as well with the Ood, because we are straight into a nice, what is almost like a cliffhanger, but at the start of the show where they're going, we must feed. And then it gets resolved with a really cool little line. It's like, we must feed you now. And they're like, oh, they are friendly. Oh, it's cool. Because that's, like you said, the first time we've met the Ood. Uh-huh. And I think they're I think they're such a cool creation, the Ood. Like they're one of the things, a highlight from since the show returned, I would say, is the creation of the Ood characters, because I just think they're brilliant. They look somewhere between grotesque but likable, which is cute. I don't know. Yeah, I was going to say cute, or maybe not cute, but you know what I mean. It's a real good design, and they've got these weird sort of communication things that we find out in another story why they're there. So I really do love the Ood, and this is a really intriguing story for them. I know we find out more about them in in the Planet. Is it Planet of the Oods? The other story.
Yeah, with Donna. Yeah,
Donna. We get a bit more backstory in that, but I think in this it's I think they work really well because you just don't know with them. It's the first time I met them, and they keep switching between being really friendly and you feel sorry for them because they're enslaved to suddenly having red eyes and looking really menacing. And I think that's really well done. That's I just love the Ood and the name as well. The Ood. It's just I really just absolutely love. Gotta love an Ood.
They are very cool, and they are one of the best sort of newer. I'm not going to say Doctor Who monsters because they're not put in there as like the monster of the week, that sort of thing that you'd normally find. But they are a sort of strange alien species that were created just for the revival, if you like. And it's cool that they've popped up in some other stories as well. It wasn't just this story and then that's it. It's cool that like people obviously like them because they keep bringing them back.
Yeah.
And it'll be, I wonder if they're going to make another comeback, you know.
Because they're always used in a different way as well. So I like they're totally different in this story, obviously because they get possessed. But to the other stories they're in, I mean, you know, the what's the one where the Doctor goes and sits with them and they say your time is coming to an end? So you know, and then the other story in the middle is where they're sort of we get to find out, you know, a lot more about why they've got these things, these communication devices. So that, you know, each story they're in, I think they're used in a different way, but and we find out more about them. Yeah. So they're very adaptable to different stories.
Yeah, I totally agree, mate. Yeah. I think they're a great thing, and not just the way they look, but just, you know, their reason for being like. It always plays on that ethical thing. They're essentially slaves, aren't they?
Pretty much, yeah.
And there's always that sort of inner conundrum. It's like, you know, you like them and they're funny, but at the same time, they're essentially slaves. And which plays a lot more into the other story we mentioned, The Planet of the
Ood. Yeah.
And it does a little bit in this one as well. So one of the characters, so you and I are going to forget these names all over the place, as usual. But the Asian guy that was on the base, I don't even know what his job was. Some sort of scientific, technical dude.
Yeah, yeah.
I think his name was. I don't know.
Danny, isn't it?
Danny, is it? Yes, yeah, correct. Yeah, Ronnie Jetty. He's almost in control of the Ood, isn't he? Because he's the one that keeps an eye on their brain wave. You know, he keeps an eye on all that stuff.
That's it. Yeah.
But even his character, like when Rose is questioning him, because she goes to get lunch and the Ood obviously working.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they come out like, yeah.
And she says, doesn't she? So you're basically a slave. And then she goes,
I used to do this. Yeah.
And then she goes to speak. She speaks to Danny, and he says, well, they love it, sort of thing. You know, they love being slaves, and that's their purpose and everything. So right from the off, which is really cool, we get this. It's like, you know, what's ethically correct here, you know, because we can't comment too much because it's set in a time period far into the future where humans obviously have Ood slaves. And but then, you know, people like Rose and Donna and so on, you know, they will immediately fight their corner because
they will question it, won't they? Yeah.
But interestingly enough, the Doctor doesn't.
No, that's a good point. I didn't really think about that, but he doesn't. No. Why is that, do you think?
I'm not sure.
It's really weird. I hadn't even thought about that, but you're quite right. Yeah, he doesn't. He just kind of lets Rose get on with it, doesn't he?
Yes. Because even though the Doctor himself does say, doesn't he? He's like, oh, I love an Ood. In what story, whatever it was.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it was Planet of the Ood where he says that, actually.
Yeah.
He says, oh, I love an, you know. So the Doctor's kind of into them as well, you know. He thinks they're quite cool, but even he doesn't, you know, question their slavery. So yeah, it's an interesting one. It's a really good. I'm assuming Russell created the Ood. Was it Russell?
I don't know, mate. Actually, I was wondering that myself because I was thinking, you know, obviously they do appear quite a lot in the new series, especially the David Tennant era. So yeah, I was wondering who actually created them, whether it was Russell or whether it was Matt Jones. I don't know. Really not sure. Perhaps one of our listeners will know.
Yeah, I think he did, because in some of the production notes it says that Davies chose the name of the Ood.
Oh, okay.
in some, because originally he said that they were going to be on the same planet as the Slitheen. The Raxacroria. So, and then I think the rough storyline was they were sort of enslaved by the Slitheen, but then their plan was to awaken the beast so that he could free them from the Slitheen.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so, I can see that. Yeah.
So I think Russell did create the Ood as as in terms of the character themselves. But what an idea to have, though. What a cracking,
As I said, they're so adaptable. Yeah, and also the whole design of them as well is brilliant. I don't know about you, mate, but I didn't feel this at the time. But watching this again yesterday, I got a bit of a Robots of Death vibe watching this. I was thinking, you got this sort of mining group of people mining. You've got these sort of slave, in this they're the Ood, in Robots of Death they're the robots. You've got this odd bit where they keep sort of coming out with conflicting, are they bad, are they good, sort of thing. I'm not saying they copied Robots of Death at all, because that's pretty much where the similarities ended. But I was sort of getting that sort of creepy, are they good, are they bad vibe, that we get in both stories, and I like that. I always love it when you're just not sure when they're going to turn. In this, I mean, again, it's the thing with the eyes, isn't it? So as soon as them old eyes go red, you're in trouble.
You're in trouble, mate.
Yeah. But no, that's cool. I just don't know. I just picked up on that this time. I was thinking, I get a bit of that similarity there.
And they also appeared in a little webisode, didn't they? Because
Pond Life,
that's the one.
Yeah.
Because as far as I'm aware, the Ood don't appear in any Matt Smith stories, do they? The Moff decided not to bring them back at all in any of their...
Not that I remember.
As far as I know.
No, I don't think they do. No.
And so...
Isn't he sat on a toilet in
that's
that?
Right. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's kind of weird and strange.
Typical Moff.
Typical.
Degrading everything. Yeah.
But no, it's interesting that the Moff decided not to use them at all in all of Matt Smith's run, I'm not saying he had to, but it's interesting that he didn't bring them back, apart from that little webisode.
Yeah, I don't think he did. I mean, to be fair, I would have loved to have seen him, but more of them. But I suppose in a way, they do get used a lot in the Tennant era for certain things. I mean, is it Ood Sigma that sings him to sleep in the regeneration?
So. Yeah.
Something like that. So I guess, I don't know, maybe I don't think they're overused, because I'm always, like the Doctor says, I'm always pleased to see an Ood. But maybe, I don't know, they were in it quite a bit, I suppose, here and there. They kept popping up. So, I think the time would be right. I'd love to see him again now, but maybe it was good they had a bit of a rest, because they might have got overused if Moffat had used them.
You can never have too many Oods.
Too many Oods.
Yes, Ood on the loo was what Rory says, wasn't it?
Ood on the loo.
Ood on the loo. Yeah. Maybe that'd be cool, having Jodie Whittaker's Doctor.
I could see that. Yeah, I could
throwing
totally
down.
That.
Maybe teaming up with an Ood, throwing down with the 13th Doctor.
I've just had a really vivid flashback as well. Literally just come back to me. I can't believe I've only just remembered this right now. Of you put on an Ood mask at was it the 50th celebrations or the celebration, Doctor Who celebration? I'll tell you why that's come back to me. It's because I was just going to say, they're a good one to cosplay.
Yeah.
And then suddenly the image of you putting on that sweaty Ood mask come back, because it was really rubbery, wasn't it?
Yes.
I've got a great picture of you somewhere with that on.
Yeah, I've got it somewhere as well.
Yeah, I have to dig it out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fantastic... I mean, it was the original sort of synthetic rubber mask that the actor wore.
Yeah.
But it was very hot and horrible in there. So,
I know. I could see that as soon as you put it on, that you actually couldn't wait to get it off. It's like, hang on, let's get a picture. You're like, quick then. Let's desperately get it off.
Yeah. Although it's fantastic to look at, though.
It was.
Very, very good. But... So I think safe to say we love the Ood here on the podcast.
Definitely love an Ood.
Yeah.
I was going to say I know you will have watched the second part of this, because obviously you watched it on the whatever it was you were watching the night you were box setting it, iPlayer. I did resist. I didn't watch the second part because we'll review it next month, won't we? So I haven't watched the second part. so I can only judge this as a standalone sort of story. In other words, I can't remember if the second part's good. I can't remember if it's a good conclusion or even really what happens. I think I can only remember one small very bit from part 2 actually, which is just the Doctor talking to the Beast. Sticks in my head. But so I just thought as a first part this was a cracking start. I really hope the second part lives up to my memory and that it's good, because I genuinely can't remember a lot about the second bit. And you do get a next time trailer in this, don't you, of them running around. And I was thinking, hopefully it's not all just running around, because the good thing about this first part is the great build-up attention. Like all the way through, it's chopping, changing. Are they good? Are they bad? What's happening here? They're possessed, and it all comes to a great cliffhanger. I think it really does definitely leave you wanting more. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely, mate. Yeah, I'm not going to comment then on the sequel.
No, we'll get to that next month. Yeah,
the sequel.
I hope it's good. Second part. Conclusion.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in terms of editing and storyline, very, very cool. Script is very good. Production values on this one, because there is quite a few visual effects that were needed. Some of them were physical and then used, sort of put in place. So when Sutekh was killed and you see her body flying through space, or flying, that sounds a bit Princess Leia in The Last Jedi, but when you see her just floating through space because she's been killed, she was shot underwater, and then she was then placed digitally in the scene. So that's you got that effect there, and then you've got the black hole itself. When the top, it's a bit like Wembley Stadium. There's like a cover. Yes.
So I knew it reminded me of something. Yeah.
So when they bring the cover down, and it's like you can see all of space essentially. They can see the black hole just up there and everything swirling into it and stuff. So those are the two main sort of effects, if you like, because we don't actually see the Beast properly until the Satan pit in the next one.
Right, yeah.
So we see a little tiny snippet of him. There's he's in a little hologram.
Oh, that's right.
He flicks up very quickly, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But other than that, there are quite a few sort of CG-based things. Obviously, when we see the outside of the base on the rocky planet, and when the Doctor and... Is it Ida? When the Doctor and Ida go down, because they're drilling down into the core of the planet. Yeah. So when those two get down there, they find this huge, massive chasm, don't they? And
that looks really good.
Massive. So that's all CG as well. So what did you reckon to the effects then? Bearing in mind, we're talking about 2006. Does it still hold up as a good-looking episode to you, or do you think it's aged?
I think 50-50 actually, because I think the actual black hole itself and the shot of poor old Scooty, or whatever her name is, going towards it, I think that all looks really nice. The bits that don't work for me actually are the shots of the base itself. One of the notes I made was I think we should have had an establishing shot of the base just before the TARDIS lands, right at the very start, because we actually don't really see the outside of the base until the TARDIS falls off and they're looking out of the hole.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, so that's where they are. And I was thinking we should have really sent that at the start, because there's a lot of stuff going on the base before then, but we only see it from the inside and we don't really know where they are. It kind of, I think we just needed a very quick shot of it at the start of the story, really, to establish, where they've landed. Because that's the bit where I would say the CG doesn't work that well. The Doctor's looking out of the window saying, the TARDIS is gone, and we get this sort of real high shot of a CGI shot of the base. But it took me a minute to work out what we're supposed to be looking at. I'm like, well, where's the TARDIS gone? And then just before it comes off, I'm like, I see, it's on the edge of a cliff. I get it, right? But I thought that didn't quite meet the brief of what we should have seen, because I didn't get where the TARDIS had fallen over, really. It just didn't seem like the right shot for what we were supposed to be seeing.
Right.
Yeah. So I think the CGI base scenes look a bit dated and they don't quite work as well as they could. But they're the only bits I think date. I think the other bits, they look really nice. I think the black hole itself, it's very simple, but it looks really good. I thought the satanic pit or whatever it is down below. I thought that looked quite good.
Mm-hmm.
It's filmed in a good old quarry, isn't it? And then they've put some CGI stuff going on. So a bit 50-50. I thought it still stood up fairly decently, but I think the base bits looked they could have been a bit better. Yeah. Well, what do you think, mate? Do you think it's all right?
I would say, I agree with you. It's 50-50. So the shots of the black hole, and there's a scene where I'm sure her name's Ida, the woman that goes down into the pit with the Doctor. She brings back the cover again, and when they see a solar system, I think that's sort of been broken up and is now being sucked into the black hole. So all of that looks quite nice,
It does,
typically that nice sort of spacey nebula sort of starfield kind of thing. It all looks quite nice. But I agree with you. The shots of the base itself, they do look a bit, I don't know, just not very, not like the concept is good. Like this big sort of real dark, black, rocky, edgy planet, which you would imagine something like this creature being based inside.
Yeah.
They've got that tone and everything and the design all down, but the execution is not very good at all. Like, even the perspective of the base doesn't look quite right.
That's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Yeah, it's just the shot is wrong. It doesn't. It's not showing us what we should be seeing, I don't think, in that particular shot. Kind of like, we need a shot of the base. Let's put that in there. That does the trick. I don't know. It just didn't really establish what it was supposed to be showing, I didn't think.
No, I agree, mate.
But it's such a tiny little bit. But yeah, I agree with you on that.
Before we talk about characters, what did you think about the overall concept of this story then? Because essentially it boils down to there's this, and it's hard to talk about it now because the Doctor doesn't go into too much detail until the second part. But essentially it's like this age-old ancient god figure almost that's trapped down in the core of the planet. And the first time the Doctor realizes that it's actually something quite old is when they very first land and Rose notices the graffiti on the wall. We're in hell or something, welcome to hell, whatever it was. And there's this other language that's littered on, that's written underneath it. And the TARDIS can't translate it. And the Doctor's like, it's impossibly old, it's really old. So the idea is that this devil, beast, Satan, whatever, thing, that's what's causing this massive energy funnel thing that stops them from being sucked into the black hole. But what did you think about this because I'm not going to say that this was based on any kind of religious aspect, but it does have that kind of sort of typical devil thing about it, because they do allude in the story that it is, a typical devil. He is because when the Doctor's trying to figure out the calculations as to why the planet is still staying in orbit, he comes up with that ridiculously long thing, that algorithm thing, doesn't he?
Yeah.
About it. It's like something, a power source with an inverted self-extrapolating reflex force of 6 to the power of 6 every 6 seconds.
That's the one.
That's the one. So obviously that equates to 666, which we know in Christianity and, and all that stuff as the sign of the devil. So
the number of the beast.
Yeah. So it's interesting that they sort of use that almost as a template, if you like, for a typical, the devil. But it's in a way, it's weird, isn't it? Because they put this kind of Doctor Who spin on it as well, which we've seen with many things that they've tackled in the past, where in Doctor Who stories we've seen vampires and other things. They're not really vampires. They're aliens from somewhere else, but humans have labelled them as that thing. And it's almost the same thing with this, isn't it? They've kind of tried to get you down this road of, it is the devil or it is Satan, but it's not really, is it? It's just this ancient being, this ancient godlike creature that just happens to have been named these things over the years. So what did you think about this overall kind of, is it really the devil and Satan, or is it just some alien thing that's very old? And
It's quite dark for Doctor Who, isn't it? I remember thinking that because there is a scene where he's sort of naming lots of different names for Satan, and it's like some call me Lucifer, some call me this, and I'm thinking, okay, so they're definitely alluding to it being Satan. I think from my memory, and we'll probably talk about this when we do part 2, but I seem to remember we get into some sort of what would you call it, territory like that, where it's very much left open-ended. If I'm remembering right, they sort of, is this the one where they say, oh, does God exist or something? I can't remember, but I know we get into this sort of religious blurred line, I think, to do with Satan and God, from what I remember. So it's quite strong stuff for, a family stroke children's entertainment program. This very much reminds me of, sort of older Doctor Who. I was going to say classic Doctor Who, for want of a better word. It's got that, where they were a bit bolder and they weren't afraid to sort of use themes like this, like in Mandragora the other week, which we reviewed, they sort of have that whole gothic thing going on, don't they? So it definitely has a sort of old school feel to me, this story, which I really like. But I like that. Yeah, I think they go close to the line with the whole Satan thing. But I don't know. I'll wait till we get to part 2. But I don't think they go too far with it, from what I remember. I think it's just left. It's like you said, they put stuff out there, but they leave it up to you to decide. Don't they? If I'm remembering right, it's nothing's explicitly
that's correct
said, is it? Yeah, and I like it when they do that.
Interestingly enough, so Gabriel Wolf, that voices the Beast in this, who also voiced Sutekh, back in the Pyramids of Mars. There's a scene in Pyramids of Mars where after the Doctor realizes that who Sutekh is. He says that Sutekh has gone by many aliases, including the Beast and Satan.
Again, I like that. Because if you want to make that connection, you can. If you don't, you don't have to. I like stuff like that.
It's cool, isn't it? So they're not saying that the two are connected,
but they could be. Yeah,
they're probably unlikely, but they could be.
It could be, and a great choice for the voice. I mean, as you mentioned him, it is such a creepy, deep, voice that's perfect for the Beast. I think it's great that they got him back to do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
I think the whole sort of Beast and Satan thing is really interesting because they don't, like you said, they don't explicitly say, yes, this is Satan. This is. Because if we, it's always a tricky sort of line to tread on with Doctor Who when they talk about religious aspects or stuff like that. So I like the fact that they leave it sort of open-ended enough that you can say, that potentially was Satan or whatever, or not, depending on your view on that sort of thing. But it's interesting that they use like these common kind of sort of movie and TV themes that have been associated with sort of religious horror aspects in the past. So when Toby gets possessed, so it's almost like a classic horror film with the scenes with Toby, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the first one, when he's in his quarters, all you can hear is this really sinister voice just whispering his name.
Toby.
Yeah. And then when we see him again, it's like, don't turn around. And then, so it's all very horror filmy. Do you know what I mean? That sort of common, scary setup. Yeah.
The bit where he smashes the glass is straight out of like a Hammer horror or sort of classic horror film.
Yeah. So, and then the next time we see him, he's like properly possessed. He's got the red eyes. His voice has changed. You can tell that it's not him anymore. It's something inside him that's possessed him. So it's interesting. And then obviously when we see the Doctor doing a calculation, it comes out as 666. So it's interesting that they push you towards that. They push you towards that way of thinking. Like, it is like Satan that, from the biblical sense, from a religious sense. But at the same time, and I'm going on to part 2 a little bit here, but when we get to it, the Doctor does kind of debunk that a little bit.
Right,
but
that's what I'm remembering.
Do you know what I mean? But it's interesting that in this one, they push you along that path a little bit. They don't explicitly say anything, but I found that quite interesting because it must be difficult to, to have these themes in the story, but then hold back enough that you're not actually telling the viewer directly what it is. You're just giving them enough to make their own mind up for the time being.
Yeah, and we haven't seen him yet, apart from that quick flash on the monitor. But I think when we do see the Beast next week, in next week's episode or whatever, it's a great design that, very much encapsulates the look of what you would picture as the devil looking like. So, yeah, but we'll save that for part 2.
Yeah, but that scene with Toby when Scooty goes looking for him and she's really confused. She's like, the door's open, but no spacesuit's been used. And what's going on? And it's horrible. It's really scary when she sees him outside and he turns around and he's got that horrible.
It is horrible.
It's really scary.
Yeah, the red eyes, the writing. It's it's proper it's proper horror.
Yeah,
it really is. What time did this go out? Did this would have been 7:00? Would it on a Saturday?
Something.
I can't remember when Tennant's Era was aired, but
something like that. Yeah, and that scene, and he's got a horrible grin on his face, and then all of a sudden he clenches his fist, and the window starts to. Oh, it's quite scary stuff. I mean, certainly for for younger viewers, if you had people sort of under the age of 12. 10 maybe watching it would have been quite scary for sure.
Yeah, I mean it unnerves me. So if I was a kid, I think I would be properly terrified by him. Toby possessed, because possession is a scary thing anyway.
Oh, it's terrifying.
I always think I think in any film or TV, when someone's possessed, especially when they start talking in a different voice, I mean it's done really well in this. It's not like sort of some old programs where the lips are not moving with they're sort of mouthing the words, but it's done really well in this. They've mixed it so that it looks like it's him saying it, but it's not his voice. It works really well. Just before we move on to the characters, mate, I've got to mention Murray's music in this so that I don't forget, because it is a big part of this. It's so good because it's so different. It just makes me think, Murray, what happened, man? He's really pushing the envelope in this, because not only is it different, it's quite minimal, it's quite subtle. It's mostly this sort of strange violin-y type. I don't know what the instrument is, but it's a very unnerving piece of music, and it's so good in this story. I mean, it's to me, he's absolutely hit the brief of the horror score that they needed, like just the little jump cues and stuff. I just think this is a superb, creepy soundtrack from Murray. And I wish he'd done a bit more of this, because I can't think of any other story where I think to myself like, oh, that sounds like the music from The Impossible Planet. I think it's very unique to this story, that violin-y sound. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he was trying something different in this story, and I think it really works well. I can't think of any other story where he uses that creepy sort of solo. I don't know if it is a violin, whatever that instrument is that, like when they open the eye. But it's real creepy stuff. I mean, it really adds 100% to the story, Murray's music in this. So I've got to give him kudos for really getting it right, I think, in this story. Yeah,
and you can tell a mile off as well that the direction, not just James Strong and his direction while filming, but the direction from Russell T Davies and Julie and everyone else, they definitely wanted to make a scary episode.
Yeah.
Because you can tell in not just the script and stuff, but like the scary scenes, obviously, that are very direct. But also, Murray's music is very creepy, and you can tell that they wanted a behind the sofa story in series 2 for sure.
Yeah,
and it works. It definitely works. It's definitely creepy.
Yeah. Oh, it's really creepy. It's very good. I just think he pushes the envelope into doing something a bit different. Because I'll be 100% honest, I actually checked to see if it was Murray. It's that different. I was thinking, it is Murray doing this, right? Because like in the classic series, sometimes Dudley Simpson would often do the music. But then if Dougie Camfield was directing, him and Dudley fell out, so you'd get a different composer. So like Terror of the Zygons got a very different feel to it because the music's not Dudley Simpson and stuff like that. This to me sounds like it could be a different composer. I'm like, this is really good stuff, Murray. You're trying something different, and it's 100% working with the with what's on screen. It really adds to the creepy atmosphere. And the jumpy bits as well, like when Toby's possessed and you bursting through the door, and it's good stuff. I wish he'd tried to do a bit more. He got a bit samey towards the end, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about some characters then. We've spoken about the Ood.
Yeah.
Spoken
Such
about
a good name.
Gabriel Wolfe as the voice of the Beast. Very, very good. He's got that
excellent,
brilliant, deep, really deep.
I wish I could.
Menacing voice. Really, I don't know. He seems to go really deep, and it's really unsettling.
It is.
What about the people that are based in the base then? So that would be Scooty, Danny, Toby, Ida, and
Zach.
Zach, and then we also have the security guy, don't we, Mr. Jefferson?
Mr. Jefferson, yeah.
So a fairly decent sized supporting cast. And for the most part, really good. I really liked Claire Rushbrook, Ida. She seems to form a bond with the Doctor, sort of their joint scientific interest in things. I quite liked Danny, who we spoke about earlier. He's the one that's sort of controlling the technical aspects and the Ood and so on. Toby was quite good, like the sort of...
Yeah, I think he's good as possessed, and he's better when he's possessed.
Yeah. Mr. Jefferson, the security guy, I think he is.
Yeah.
Not too bad, actually. I thought he was quite good. Danny Webb.
Yeah, he's good.
The only performance I wasn't too keen on was Zach, Sean Parks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just found that a couple of times I think he was trying to come across as authoritative, but it sounded just like their mate down the pub a couple of times. I think, don't get me wrong, I've got no real complaints with his performance, but I just felt like a few times he was, just not really. And don't get me wrong, for the majority of the episode, he did sort of put his stamp on, I'm the leader of what's going on, and he does sort of pull people back in line at times. But there are other times where I just thought, I don't know. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't bad, but just out of all the supporting cast, I thought his performance was the weakest out of those lot, but certainly not a bad performance.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I quite liked him actually.
You liked him?
Well, like the thing I liked was that he's trying to be all authoritative, and then when it all kicks off, I think he says to the Doctor, "Done it hard. I may as well just admit it. It's all gone wrong, and I'm not doing very well." And I thought he was okay. Yeah, I didn't really have a problem with him. I agree with you. Like you said, not a bad performance at all, but he didn't stand out to me as being any less good than the rest. I don't know. I thought out of all the people you've mentioned, I guess we'll get to know more in the second part, but I agree with you. I thought Ida stood out as being a bit more of a natural actor. She sort of, the way she delivered her lines, whereas I thought Danny, to me, he was good in the part, but he wasn't as natural an actor. He was a little bit sort of, I wouldn't say theatre, because he's not theatre, but you know what I mean? He wasn't as convincing or natural as Ida, I didn't think, in this performance. And so I would probably put Zach above him, if I'm honest. But I would say, for considering the size of her part in this, I actually thought Mayanna, is that how you say her name? Mayanna Burning as Scooty. I mean, she gets knocked off pretty quick. She doesn't really get a lot of screen time. But I actually thought for a little bit part in the story, I thought she gave a really nice performance, because I was quite sad when she died. I was thinking, oh no, not Scooty. We've only just met, we've only just got to know her. So, because sometimes you don't care if the actor in the part's not particularly good, or they think, they've looked at the script and thought, I've only got 10 lines. Oh, I'm not really bothered, but I'll turn up and say them. But I felt like she was, giving a real nice little performance, for considering she probably only had 10 lines. So, yeah, I thought overall they were pretty good supporting cast. No one stood out as being particularly bad or I thought they gelled quite well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I thought, because sometimes when you have a decent supporting cast in terms of numbers, when you have sort of 3 or 4 and upwards, there's bound to always be one that's...
I'm trying to think that 12th Doctor story, what's it called, where they're on the underwater base, that I'm sure there was somebody in that we said was like, oh, really letting the side down, but I can't remember now. You know the one I mean, don't you?
I think, is it under the
lake, and I'm sure there was like somebody in that, yeah. But no, I thought these guys overall were pretty good. There is one guy though. There is an extra who, oh bless him, he's the guy, because I was like, suddenly this guy appears next to Zach on the looking down over the Ood with a gun. I'm like, well, who's that? Where's he come from? So I was thinking, well, obviously he's going to get killed. There can be no other reason for this random person to have appeared on screen. And sure enough, about 2 minutes later, the Ood attaches its voice ball to his head and electrocutes him. Now he does do the typical extra thing of going over he's like, yes, I've got a death scene. I'm really going to go for this. Doesn't he? So he was a bit pantomime, but I knew as soon as I saw him, I was like, well, he's going to die, because where's he appeared from? Yeah. We don't know who he is. He hasn't got a name. He's like the red shirt guy in Star Trek. As soon as you see them, you know they're going to get killed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But no, I agree with what you said, mate, for the cast. Yeah. What did you think to Rose?
Well, I've got to be honest, I found her a little bit irritating in this. Okay. Yeah, because I was thinking, I don't remember from the first time I watched this, back in 2006, I don't remember feeling like that. But she's not bad in it at all. But she has gone into that sort of slightly quirky, cocky, she comes out of a lot of one-liners in this, and she's got this silly, dopey grin on her face for most of this episode. And I don't dislike her in it. I don't think she's bad, but I also didn't really warm to her. Like, I kept thinking back to the End of the World episode, Eccleston, where she's trapped and all the lights breaking through. She's trapped in her, because she was much more natural in Series 1 in terms of her performance, and I found her a lot more likable. So, yeah, she's fine in this, but I just didn't warm to her in the same way as I did in like that first series. She's a sort of like, even in the very first scene, isn't it? She sort of comes out of the TARDIS and she's being all giggly and stuff with the Doctor, and her character's just changed a little bit, I think. And I know I always say it, but I prefer Series 1 Rose. I find her a little bit irritating in this. She's just a little bit too self-assured, I think, somehow. But I was going to say that scene is nice when she's just sat chatting with the Doctor and stuff. But even then she gets a bit gooey-eyed and starts talking about moving in together or not. She's like, like, oh dear. Even the Doctor just looks to the ground, doesn't he? Because he doesn't want to sort of look at her because of what she's saying. But yeah, I don't know. She was okay. That's probably the best way to say it. I just sort of found her a little bit... couple of little quirky comments. I was like, yeah, give it a rest, Rose.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So Series 2, Rose is a little bit, it's one of those aspects that really divides who fans, and I think the majority are not really cool with it. So this romantic link between the Doctor and companion. So.
Yeah,
10 and Rose in this case, because the series culminates with Doomsday, doesn't it? Where we have the whole
tears,
the tears, and it's always that question, isn't it? Is the Doctor actually in love with Rose? Because she clearly is with him.
Yeah,
but it ends with the scene on the beach where last chance to say it. Rose Tyler, and then it cuts out. So was he going to say "I love you" or whatever? So. This, Series 2 for me is that, because
last chance to say it, leave me alone.
so for me, Series 2 is where Rose, where the writers start to incorporate that love interest, because it does culminate with, that whole romantic, sad scene at the end in Doomsday. So for that reason, I think early on in the series, as you can clearly see, Rose, because that conversation about them two getting a house together and a mortgage and stuff, and she sort of lightheartedly says, we can share
Yeah.
You know, and the Doctor sort of gazes a little bit and then they sort of snap out of it. And, yeah. So I get what you mean. You know, she doesn't seem as likable as when she was with Eccleston.
No, and it's just sort of like little comments she makes as well. I think there's a bit where she comes out with some sarcastic line to might be Ida or someone like that. Something like, "Yeah, I thought we would," or something like that. And I don't know, just that sort of attitude, Rose. I don't really like that side of the character that they seem to bring out more in series 2. I prefer the sort of more, I like the caring side of Rose, you know, to sort of turn it around to a positive. Like I like the scenes in this where she's worried about the Ood.
Oh yeah.
And she's trying to sort of do a little bit of her own investigation, like when she gets the food and she's sort of just trying to chat to them to find out, are they actually happy being slaves? You know, are you really okay with it? So I like that side of Rose in this story. But the sort of slightly cocky one-liner side of Rose that we see in this, I didn't like as much.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, she's not quite as annoying as something like School Reunion.
No, oh no.
You know, she's not quite that bad, but she does, like you said, she does have her moments, and I think she's okay in this. I think she's. I mean, it's good to see her and the Doctor in this sort of having a laugh. Kind of, you know, thing that they're going on where they land and they having a joke and. Up until the point where the Doctor realises the TARDIS has been lost. Yeah. You know, they are quite laughy and jokey and it's quite cool. But it's just those little romantic things that they sort of loosely put in there in the run-up to the end of the series that doesn't really sit too pretty. But otherwise, you know, she's okay. Not her best episode, but certainly not her most annoying.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
And what about Tennant then in this one?
I think he's great in this, actually, because it's his first proper series, isn't it? This one, it's series 2, but it's Tennant's first series. So I think he's very comfortable as the Doctor in this story. Because I love he's tapping into the sort of Doctor's alienness a bit more. You know, his fascination with the fact that they've, like you said, found this thing, and he's so intrigued by it, isn't he? And you know, the sort of, like you said, the danger doesn't even really worry him at that point. He's just intrigued by what he's seeing, and that's very much the Doctor. So, yes, I like Tennant in this. As I said, I think it's the first time we see the spacesuit, isn't it?
It is.
Is it the red spacesuit, which we unfortunately get to see far too much of after this story. It keeps getting brought out of the wardrobe department, but it's really cool to see him in the red spacesuit going down, exploring, a little bit Pertwee-ish, isn't it? Just getting really stuck in to what they're doing. But yeah, I think Tennant's really cool in this one. Really good in it. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. I think he's rocking and rolling now that he's sort of got his. He's really sort of into the role at this point because series 2, I don't know. Sometimes it's often viewed as a bit of an up and down series by a lot of people because we have some.
Well, we had the Idiot's Lantern was the story before this.
We have some great ones like The Girl in the Fireplace.
That's good.
School Reunion, it's a great story.
Yeah. Cyberman 2-part is a bit of an odd one.
Yeah, it's a bit strange. New Earth, the one that kicks it off, is not that great, is it?
Not a fan of that one, no.
So it's often, you know, it's fairly up and down a lot of people. But one thing that I would say is we also have Love and Monsters, which Tennant's not in it, you know, at all. Yeah. We have Fear Her, which is not great. Army of Ghosts. A lot of these we haven't done yet, so I'm not going to talk about them too much. But one thing that I would say is consistent throughout, not just series 2, but for all of David Tennant's run, is that he seems to be on the ball with most, if not all, of the stories that he's in. So one thing you can, and that's one thing that's always been really good about the casting side of Doctor Who. With any of the Doctors from, you know, Eccleston, Tennant, you know, all of them, you can always, with the exception of Capaldi, and that's not his fault. It's the things that were written for him and the change of direction that I'm going to confidently say was forced upon him.
Yeah.
You know, so with the exception of Capaldi's era, you know, you can always rely on Eccleston, Tennant and Smith to be consistent in their performance. Even like the stories where the script is rubbish and the story's not that good, they've always carried those ones, you know.
Yeah, most of the time, I think that's probably true. Yeah,
so not, not 100%, but I would say, overall, for the most part, they've always nailed the casting of the Doctor.
Oh, yeah.
And Tennant is a great example of that, because in every story, whether it's good or bad, he's always the constant, the thing that's, you gravitate towards to. He's like the leading man. He's got to carry, everything. So, and it's the same with this one. And fortunately, this is a good story for him,
it is
to get his teeth into. So you can tell that he's rocking and rolling now. He's got his own thing, his own series, like you said, and he's into it now. And so, I really like him in this. I really like that sort of daydreamy Tennant that he has sometimes, coupled with the intense, we've got to fix this, So I really like the two mixed together, and Tennant does that very, very well. So that scene where he's chatting with Rose about getting a mortgage and a house, he's just really laid back and chilled. He's he's just a bit daydreamy about it. And then in a split second, he's in action mode. He's in like, right, stuff's going down.
Yeah, what's going on?
It's serious sort of thing.
And
he's funny as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say he is funny. I mean, I do like that first scene where he discovers the strange writing and he can't work out why the TARDIS isn't translating it and all that sort of stuff. And, Rose is like, go to hell. He's like, oh, it's not that bad. Oh, it's all written on the wall. So he is good at that sort of stuff as well. Yeah.
So, character-wise, pretty decent.
Yeah, not bad supporting cast at all, actually. No, they're all right. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all right.
They're all right. Well, let's put it this way. You always know that. I mean that as a plus, because if a supporting cast is bad, they can really bring down a good story. So, as I say, saying they're all right is not I don't mean it in a bad way. I mean they're doing what they're doing what they're supposed to do. So yeah.
Scores then. Anything you want to mention though, before we get on to our?
No, mate. No, we've covered it. I just wanted to make sure I didn't forget Murray. No, I'm all good. Whose turn is it to go first? I think it's me, isn't it? It's me. Yeah. I'm going to go with a solid 7.5 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah, I was nearly an 8. I don't know. It didn't quite reach an 8 for me, but 7.5.
7.5. I'm going to go with an 7.5.
Are you? I thought you might. I thought you'd go with an 8.
7.5.
No, I'm hoping the next part's an 8. I really am. Yeah, I thought this was a real strong first part. Yeah.
I would have given it an 8. However, I feel like it was everything that was done on a set, I thought was really, really good. Because it's a very small set. It's very contained. You only see a couple of little things. So I thought they did really well to make the most of the small set and stuff. But I didn't give it an 8 because I was really miffed at the space station and how that was done.
Yeah.
Because with the exception of the black hole visual effect, there isn't really anything else for them to do. And I can only imagine that they blew a ton of budget going to Pinewood Studios to film people underwater to then, put them on top of that. So, I feel like they could have really made the episode a lot more, what's the word?
Extravagant.
Yeah.
No.
Big. Immersive.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like they could have made it a lot more immersive and made you really feel like you were sort of on this big space station on this planet. But
yes.
But otherwise, acting was fairly decent. It's just a solid episode, really. Yeah. Initially, I gave it a 7. So when I watched this a couple of weeks ago, in my head, before I wrote anything down for a review, I thought this is probably a 7. But when I rewatched it last night, that 0.5 was on there for Gabriel Wolf's voice. It's just... Yeah,
I do agree with you about the making it feel a bit more. I think the budget does show a little bit. I agree with you about we should have seen a bit more of the base, and you do feel when you're watching this, it's a little bit budget. Like they're only really those sort of 3 sets, and they do run along that corridor set quite a bit and stuff. So yeah, unfortunately, the budget does show a little bit in terms of we should have seen more grandeur, the base in a more grandeur style. Yeah,
Sure. What did our listeners think? We had the usual flurry. We had loads of messages on Facebook.
We did. I didn't bother doing a Geeks post this week because I saw that you'd got loads on the Blue Box one. So I was like, we don't need any more.
Yeah. Before we get to Facebook, over on Twitter, we did our poll for you guys to vote on. And a whopping 93% of you said likey for this one.
Oh.
With only 7% saying stinky.
Okay, that's
interesting.
Good
we had a couple of comments on Twitter as well. Andrew Cuthbert Jr. said, it's an incredible story. Still terrified of a possessed poor Toby standing on a planet's surface waving through the window with that menacing grin. He gives it a 10 out of 10.
10, okay, that's good.
TARDISNet66 says, over time it's become one of my favourite 10th Doctor stories. Tennant and Piper at their best. The Beast is one of the best standalone villains in modern Who, leaving its identity up to interpretation. It also greatly introduces the Ood and has a great cast. The only other thing we had on Twitter was Lewis Blackmore just said, watching The Impossible Planet for the millionth time. Ready for the Big Blue Box podcast review on Friday. And he just says, what an episode, with lots of exclamation marks.
Cool.
Over on Facebook, some of you left some really long comments, so I'm not going to be able to read all of them out, but I'm going to skim read those ones. Miles McKenzie says, it's very strange. Watched this one on my iPlayer marathon last night. I love this one way more than I remembered. It's well paced with great characters with amazing performances. And the creepiness of the devil possessing the Ood is the icing on the cake. If you'd have reviewed this last week, I'd have given it a 5, but it's gone up to a solid 8.5.
Oh, right.
Sir Jacob Birtwhistle says, if I can remember how to email you, you should have an audio review. And fortunately, Jake, you have remembered how to email. And we will play your audio clip in a minute. Kevin Mullen says, in what I consider to be Tennant's worst season, this is an absolute diamond in the rough. One of the series' most scary stories, The Impossible Planet, is an absolute masterpiece in tension. Having Gabriel Wolfe voice the Beast was a brilliant idea, leaving the viewer to draw their own conclusion to there being a link to Sutekh. I still find that such a cool.
I do. I love it.
Yeah.
I love
it's gloomy, dark, exciting, and terrifying, bearing one scene at the start. And the 10th Doctor and Rose don't great. I give it a massive 666 out of 666. Gallifrey Forever 97 says, a standout two-parter from the Tennant era from Series 2, discussing philosophical views in an unbiased way. Seeing the Doctor and Rose separated for a majority of the story affirms their stellar chemistry. Goes on to say the overall great, scary and thought-driven story with great acting all around. Lewis Blackmore says, absolutely love the first part of this story, especially as this was my first ever episode of Who.
Oh.
Definitely one of my favourite episodes to this very day. Tennant and Piper are excellent, and there are some really strong performances from the rest of the cast too. One of the highlights, Series 2, is fantastically written by Matt Jones. Nothing wrong with this episode at all. 10 out of 10.
10, another 10.
Jason Thayer. This is brilliant two-parter and the true showcase of modern era's best work. Superb acting from Tennant. One of the best. 10 out of 10.
Yes, another 10.
The Theta Sigma podcast says, back in the days of the podcast, my co-host and I had very different views on this one. She thought it was brilliant, but I hated it. And to be fair, I still do.
Wow.
For me, this is one of the worst stories of the Tennant era.
Oh dear.
With little atmosphere and too much.
Have you seen Fear Her?
He says it has too little atmosphere and too much misplaced chemistry between Rose and Mr. Jefferson. Both Tennant and Piper give poor performances in this one, both looking lost and dazed by the plot.
No.
For me, the only saving one is the superb performance of Sean Parks as Zachary Crossflane. Cool and calm when needed, but brilliantly emotional when required. It's his performance alone that I give this a 2 out of 10.
Good grief.
Theta.
Wow.
Crikey Moses. Not liking that one. Lewis Palmer says, fantastic first part, wonderful pace and atmosphere. It absolutely terrified me as a child, especially Don't Turn Around scene, which is even scarier with a surround sound system.
I bet.
I can imagine, yeah. The score is so demonic with the simple use of the violin, which is out of the ordinary for Murray Gold.
Yes.
At this point in his tenure. Gave it a 9 out of 10.
Ooh, okay.
Martin Arnold says, amazing. This has everything Doctor Who needs with just a kick of root, ma'am. You can almost taste the evil. A proper beast of an episode. This is just the sort of awesome that made the new Who the success it became under Russ. It goes on to give it a 10 out of 10.
Wow, another 10.
Joseph Howarth, Series 2 isn't the best season for David Tennant, but in general, is this two-parter. It is one of the better stories for me in general. The story, I feel, puts you in, and I felt really immersed in the atmosphere, and the music from Murray Gold does help in that aspect. It goes on to say that I know it isn't going to happen, but I was half expecting him to say, kneel before the might of Sutekh, every time the Beast was talking to Toby. Very well crafted episode, great characters, superb performances, 9 out of 10.
9, okay.
Our writer, Maria Kalitichu, says, I find this story genuinely scary, feeds into a lot of primitive fears of possession and something older and evil. Complex, intelligent story with interesting characters. The score adds to the bleakness. Why did Matt Jones not write more for Who?
Yeah.
That's a good question, Maria. George Puddy, this is a brilliant opening to a brilliant two-parter. It's a great reuse of the base Under Siege formula with the added threat of the black hole. The Ood are incredibly sinister, and Gabriel Wolf is back, but not Sutekh. I like the characters, and the Doctor and Rose don't grate on me in this one like they usually do. I give it 9 out of 10.
Okay.
Paul Villano says, great one. Lots of genuine thrills and chills, great special effects and surprises, brill ending. And lastly, last couple, Zach Jenkins says, love this two-parter, 8 out of 10. And very short and concise from Loopy Lou, just says, yay.
Yay!
Exclamation mark. And we did have a couple of audio reviews in as well. So
good.
This is Jake Birtwistle.
I'm back. Minar's never gone anywhere, but my audio reviews are back, so you've now got another voice to get sick of listening to besides Gary and Adams. The Impossible Planet. It is good. I like it. It's very good. The Ood are very cute, even when they're murdering people. The acting is average, because you'd think you'd be a bit more surprised at seeing the Doctor and Rose on the supposedly impossible planet than just going, oh my god, real people, that's pretty cool. The devil, or Satan, whatever he's meant to be called, for argument's sake we'll call him Fred. Fred was good. I like Fred. His voice was very scary. And one of the only parts I don't like about this episode is that scene where Rose is talking to Ten about sharing a house. I absolutely despise that scene. It makes my blood boil. Anyway, I'm going to give this episode 8.5 Freds out of 10 Oods. Bye.
Cheers, Jake.
A nice one. Thank you, Jake. And we also had Sammy from Down Under.
Hey, Gary and Adam, Sammy Satine here. So, The Impossible Planet, nice cliffhanger, something of which there has been missing lately. Also, Gabriel Wolf, the voice of the Beast. I just this week listened to the 4th Doctor Adventures Volume 2 from Big Finish, where Sutekh returns. Sutekh, of course, being the first villain that Gabriel Wolf voiced in Doctor Who. It's excellent. Love 10. I like Rose in this for a change. Also, the crew are great. Nice to see the Ood. Can they come back, please? I give it 10 black holes out of 10. See ya.
Cheers, Sammy.
Another 10.
Another 10, yeah. A lot of high scores there, mate. Do you think we went too low? I wonder if I should have given it an 8. But anyway, too late.
Too late.
It's
indeed.
Locked in.
It's like a game show. Yeah, it's locked in.
It's locked in.
So, yeah, thank you so much, guys, as always, for taking the time to give us your thoughts and opinions and so on. If you guys want to send us any audio clips, please feel free to do so. You don't need any fancy recording equipment these days or anything. Just your phone or your iPad or your computer, whatever, will be fine, as long as it's under a minute, so up to a minute maximum, and we will play it out on the show for you.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your thoughts on The Impossible Planet. Next week, it's back to Sarah Jane. What is it next week, dude?
Oh, yes. Looking forward to this. I don't think I've seen this one. So it's called Warriors of Kudlak. Is that right?
I think
Kudlak.
So. Kudlak, yeah. I've not seen this one either.
No.
So that'll be quite good. And just a gentle reminder, whenever we come to do the Sarah Jane adventures, we are talking about both parts, because with Sarah Jane, you had a part 1 and 2. So when we do the Warriors of Kudlak or any other Sarah Jane story, we're always going to do both parts together. So, just bear that in mind. You'll have to watch both of them. So get your DVDs out and all that jazz. Get those watched. Interestingly enough, Paul Casey, who plays a lot of under the mask monsters in Doctor who played the Ood in The Impossible Planet, also plays a few characters in the Kudlak story.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so he pops up quite a lot, Paul Casey. Yes. But anyway, we'll be asking for your thoughts and all that lot, so get that watched. And I think we're going to do there for 192.
Okie dokie.
Thank you so much for sticking with us and going through 192. A little bit short on news, as always, until we get into the new series. I think, do you know what, mate? I think once this panel's been and gone at Comic-Con, and maybe, like you say, if they release a trailer, I think stuff will start to slowly trickle in after that.
I think so, yes.
Yeah. So just a little bit longer to wait. Comic-Con's at the end of July, so another month, and we should hopefully see some stuff. In the meantime, though, and until 193 next week, jump over to the website, www.bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can listen to all of our episodes on there, plus it has links to all of the social accounts that we're on, so you can link off and give us a like and a follow and all that stuff if you haven't done so already. Also find us on all the podcast networks, as well as listening on the show. The main one, obviously, is iTunes. If you're on iTunes, just give us a sub so you don't miss a show when it goes out every Friday. And if you are an iTunes listener, if you could spend a minute to give us a review, that would be amazing, because that really helps us a lot.
It does.
Also, check out Adam's channel, The Geeks Handbag. Oh, The Geeks Handbag. The Geeks. Head over to YouTube, The Geeks Handbag. Adam's got what seems like an endless stream of cool geek videos over there. You won't be disappointed. Yes. Loads of reviews, unboxings, location stuff, convention stuff. It's all there. All your geek needs are catered for over at The Geeks Handbag. So go and give him a subscribe over on YouTube. And he's also on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff.
That's it.
So go and give him a like and a sub and all that jazz. So we might see some of you tomorrow at the Genesis of the Daleks showing at the BFI.
Yeah, I hope so.
So any of you that are going that we don't bump into, hope you have a good time. And you had a good time, depending on when you listen to this. It's all a bit timey-wimey. But we will give you a rundown next week's show on how that went.
Certainly will.
Until then, my name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember...